Welcome to Thrivin With DVIBZ. Today's episode is all about reframing, and we are literally inside of frames because this is an opportunity for all of us to learn about our mental health, right, Dee?
Excellent. That's an excellent way to say it. And thank you for joining us. And I'm super excited to be here with Nick and with you. And let's talk about reframing.
Okay, perfect. Kicking us off, what is a frame? So obviously a frame as the picture, that's fine. That's a literal frame. But what else is a frame? How we see the world is a frame, right? How we interact with the world is a frame. I'm going to frame this off of the set. This doesn't work at my feet. And so I'll start that again. How we see the world is a frame, right? So when we're looking out from our eyes into the world, we can only see so much, right? Unless we have eyes that are in the back of our heads. But some people do, allegedly. So when we're looking at anything in life, we're looking at it through a frame. Whether we're looking at a show like this, like hello out there into the viewership, you're watching this in a frame. We chose to not include certain things for you to see here. And so we've obviously made the things that are in the frame are what we want you to see and hear. And that's important to understand in any type of conversation because people are painting a picture for us and they're only showing us a certain perspective. So we don't get the whole truth whenever we're kind of interacting with other people's frames. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense. And, really our frame is our perception, what we perceive. And this is incredibly important because the power of the mind is just unbelievable, right? We have barely navigated, even like a portion of it. And so there's so much we don't understand. But ever since I was really young, I was really fascinated by the mind and its ability to completely transform how you perceive the world, which often dictates how you behave within the world. Right? So, so the mind, and of course, when we talk about the mind, we're talking about mental health, mental wellness, really.
Yeah.
Because even if you don't have, mental health issues, I don't want to put it in quotes because they're real, but the thing is, like, even if you don't, see yourself or haven't been diagnosed with mental health issues, as far as I'm concerned, most people have some degree of mental health issues just from being alive in this crazy world and dealing with the stuff they got to deal with, right? So, reframing, as we talked about these top 10 tools that we wanted to share with you, reframing is probably one of the most important to me from a more psychological perspective.
Yeah.
And that's really simply because, sometimes you can't change the situation. Most times you can't change the people. And shit happens. And so like sometimes you just can't change it. The only thing that you have any control over changing is your mind, is how you perceive a situation. And in my mind, an important part of that is a gathering of information. The more information I have, the better I'm able to make choices and decisions based on that, right? It's not just a very narrow view. And that's also what I love about travel too, because it just like completely broadens your perspectives.
Yeah.
Because the truth is we only know what we know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's not a fault or a criticism or, it's just a reality of being human.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, sometimes it's really hard. And then like today I thought we could talk a little bit about reframing some things, but I did want to address something else that I think is super important as we kind of embark on this sort of sharing of our journeys together. And that is, the probably number one elephant in the room when it comes to cannabis. And what I've seen over the decades is that, our cannabis community, we have grown to include people that prefer CBD or whatever. And I just really thought we could touch on that a little bit. What do you think?
Well, I definitely want to get into that. I
Okay.
feel like what I want to start with is also just getting into what is the reframe.
Okay.
Because we've kind of established what a frame is. And it's really important what you said, because sometimes we're able to travel and get a different perspective, and sometimes we can't. Sometimes we're like, are we stuck where we are, or we're temporarily unable to move, whatever, situation we're in.
Right.
So I wanted to just get your perspective on the reframe, like what to do, or how does this reframing work? Is it magic? Is it delusional? Like, what is the reframe process? And then I think that might give people a sense of, when you go into the cannabis like talking about the mighty THC, the wonderful reframing cannabinoid that we are going to talk about. Maybe that what do you think? Does that make more sense that way?
Sure.
Okay.
I'm happy to do whatever you like. You're the boss today.
Okay. So then let's get into it. Let's talk about, how do you reframe? If someone's out there like, I kind of understand what it is, but how do you make your frame different if you can't move, or you can't immediately have more resources?
Well, first of all, reframing is something that we do naturally, right? And this is most apparent in the stories we tell ourselves. That's how I see it. The stories we tell ourselves to be okay with something, be okay with things, and often, when we're crafting that story, we're doing it to feel better.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Feel better about a situation or whatever.
Silver lining or some way to make it okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So really, it's not like changing the situation. It's just changing your perception. And therefore, hopefully, your behavior will change to go along from that perception.
Right.
So, a good example of that is like, I don't know where this came from, but a good example of that is when they legalized cannabis in Canada for adult use, right? And they came from the frame of that they would do this to eliminate the legacy market, which is often some people will call the black market. I call it the legacy market. Or they wanted to protect the children. These kind. I can't remember what the third thing was, but whatever. That was their framing. And so every regulation that they created was based on that framing. And so that is part of one of the reasons why our industry is a bit of a disaster right now. But nevertheless, in my mind, had they reframed that approach to let's do what's best for the consumers of this plant.
Right.
And let's satisfy their needs and desires, because they know they're experts of their experience. And so therefore we should ask them what they want and try to provide that. And then maybe the regulations would have looked a lot different. So that's just an example, like in the world. We all have our ways of finding a situation and perceiving it, and if how we perceive it creates pain for us, creates discomfort, guilt, all those kinds of things, then we have a choice. We can continue to look at things that way, and that is the only way to look at them and the only way to perceive them, or we can take the information that we have, we can add some more information to that and find a way to reframe that in a way that can help us. Because that's really what reframing, much like forgiveness, is really about. It's not about those other people, places, or things. It's about us and how we feel about what's going down in our lives. So, to me, like I mentioned, in one of our other episodes, we get to choose what we believe.
Mm-hmm.
And if we tell ourselves one story about something, then we have the ability to
Mm-hmm.
tell ourselves a different story about
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That brings to mind like really something that happened recently in the last couple of days about where I was had an opportunity to reframe something. And it was, what was happening was I was having this day where I was starting to feel really tired because we've been recording all these amazing episodes, and I was like, whew, it's a lot. It's a lot to
We're putting it all out
put
there
out
for
there,
you,
right? For
okay?
sure. And so I love that, we're doing it, but at the same time, it's like, I was feeling a bit tired, and yet I've got other projects to complete, other things to do. And so I was giving myself a lot of patience and grace, but at a certain point, I was like, well, I have to reframe this day as it's not a rest day. I didn't plan for this to be a rest day. So either I've got to completely make it a rest day, or I can change my perspective on the day and just call it a day that I started work a bit later. And so that's what I chose to do. And I went outside and I went for a walk and I started to think differently about my experience. And I ended up coming home and just sat down and did what I had to do. So that was, I think that's like, for me, that's how reframing can happen. And I think it's also important that I want to tell people who haven't heard about this before is that it takes a long time. You have to tell yourself, if you've made a groove into your habit, into your beliefs, into your lifestyle, it's not like you can just say, oh, life is peachy. I love my life. It's great. If it's not, objectively great, if you don't actually feel that way, you don't make it up. But it's a way of speaking the truth that is your reality and also creating a reality at the same time. So it's something that takes like patience and a long time, but really is a super powerful tool, which is why we're talking about it today.
Yeah. Like, I mean, honestly, I know that sometimes for some of us, and most of us, that, our mind can be an enemy.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
It can be full of criticism, the gremlin, however you term that, right? Talking shit to you, telling you all kinds of stories about stuff about yourself and about other things. But because it's so powerful, I mean, think about that. How we think often dictates how we feel, right? How we perceive something dictates how we respond in a feeling, okay? So if we're always thinking that people are out to get us, and I talk about this because the stereotype of a consumer is like a pothead who's like always paranoid, right?
Connecting all the dots, and the conspiracies, man, you see it.
But what I'm saying is, it makes us doubt, when we have these feelings, if we think people are out to get us, or after us, or just out to do us harm, right? Whether that's the government or whatever, we're living in that state, and we're because we perceive it like that, that's how we feel, so full of fear and anger and frustration, right? So the only way to change that is to change our thinking. And, I mean, if you just stop and think for a second, right? If you just stop and think for a second about some of the worst stuff that you say to yourself, right? Whether that's, criticism about how I look or what I weigh or whatever the case may be, my intelligence level, my education level, like whatever, right?
Yeah.
The worst things that you say to yourself and how that contributes to your less and less self-worth and self-confidence. And the more that you do that, so all you have to think about is, well, if it can do all that harm, then it can do the same degree of good.
Yeah.
So often when I look at people and I see them for the beautiful soul that they are, right? Despite it all, despite all their, mistakes, despite their problems, despite their attitudes sometimes, but really, but really, they're beautiful souls having this human experience. And so that is why I have I can have compassion.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But I got to start that compassion with me.
That's the hard part.
Well, it seems hard, but what we have and what we're dealing with is learned, right? Like how we think about things is learned.
Yeah.
We didn't just were born thinking that way. It comes as a result of our lived experience. So, that's true. You can feel like that is the truth and that is the only way it is. But we have the ability from our mind, utilizing our mind at its best, right? When it's working for us rather than against us.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So say you're in college or something and you're studying, you want to be a doctor or something, like something that's like super hard, let's say, to study for, needs a lot of education, and you're studying, you're having all these exams and you're studying and blah, blah, blah. Imagine like the information you're able to retain in order to be able to take and pass that test.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a lot.
Yeah.
Right? But that's only a fraction of what our mind stores and knows. And we spoke in another episode about our subconscious mind, because there's our conscious mind and our subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Our conscious mind is the one that does the test, remembering, cramming for the exam. But our subconscious mind remembers how to walk, how to our heart to beat.
Mm-hmm.
Like it keeps track of all that shit for us.
Mm-hmm.
That we barely even like pay attention to unless there's a problem.
Our breath.
Our breath. So, the capacity of our unconscious mind is incredibly powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so one of the things that I love about cannabis is that we can access our subconscious mind and we can learn to access it at will.
Yeah.
Right? We access it quite often, throughout our lives, but we can access it at will. So we can control our access, right? And if we can utilize our subconscious mind in concert with our conscious mind, a symbiotic relationship between them, man, we got like this amazing tool at our disposal that's uniquely ours.
Mm-hmm. I love the way you're saying, because it speaks to the power again of the mind. And I think a lot of people who are in difficult situations and their minds have been their worst enemy, or they haven't been their friend, it's like almost impossible to imagine that thing that's actually like chattering at you, causing you harm, is actually the thing that can lead you out of your situation. Yeah. And that's like a really, really trippy phenomena, which is that you see people that arise out of difficult circumstances, whether that be life circumstances, where they grew up, or illnesses, or whatever, or injustices, or accidents, anything, right? There's this sort of rising of the human spirit that happens. And that all comes from our minds. That all comes from the belief that we can do it. And it's that belief that actually drives us forward. So for me, it's like, we can, when we're reframing things, we're literally reprogramming our subconscious to see the world in that way. One of the things that I used to do when I was trying to get a more positive mindset, when I wasn't always, reliable in that way, I woke up every day and I said, today's the best day ever. And that's the first thing I did before I put my foot down, was today. And it didn't matter if I had only gone to sleep 2 hours before. And I was like, this does not feel like the best day ever. But I said it every time. And I think I did it for about 6 months. And there was a noticeable shift in my life from that early morning kind of positive self-talk, and changing it from negative to positive. The benefit, the swing from when you can flip your mind from your enemy to your best friend, life just starts to open up.
Yeah, so powerful. And this is it goes even farther than reframing, right? With the concept that you're talking about, because it's also about like, if we are our best ally, and we are there, all of us, right? Our mind, our heart, our soul, our body. If we are working in concert and harmonious, right, to move us forward, to help us be our best, whatever that is on any given day, at any time, in any circumstance, you know. And I just want to kind of go back just a little bit and stick a pin in something. And that's about reframing. I don't want you to misunderstand. Reframing is not saying that something that is bad suddenly is something good.
Mm.
Okay? It doesn't necessarily work like that. And that's especially true, like, say, we're talking about trauma, right? There's no way, if we've been victimized or traumatized, there's no way that we can say, well, you know, if I gotta be okay with me, then suddenly I gotta like what happened, or I gotta, you know, I gotta be okay with it, or something like that. It's not about that. It's about finding through the experiences that we go through. It's about finding what from that experience can help us be even better, right? So, you know, that's why a lot of people who suffer from addictions often go into like a healing profession in terms of like, you know, counseling or, you know, addictions counseling or whatever. And that's because they have needed that compassion and healing for themselves, and they want to share that with other people. They want to provide that. So, you know, reframing, you know, there's just like everything else, there's all kinds of levels to it. You know, you can have like light reframing, like, okay, here's one that I have or have had that I reframe. So when I first, you know, I'm an innovator and I love to like do, you know, new stuff and try out stuff. But, you know, lots of people in our industry would copy me. And at first it kind of annoyed me, kind of drove me kind of nuts. Like, what are you doing copying my shit? You know, why can't you just go do yourself? And I didn't like that attitude because first of all, it was like really selfish. I come from an abundant, you know, approach. And so, you know, when it comes to ideas or, you know, like stuff like that, like there's, you know, tons of them. And the more that come out, the more come in. So honestly, they're actually doing me a favor. That's how I chose to reframe that. And so instead of feeling like people were copying me, I decided to reframe it as though I must be inspiring them. And that made me feel really good. And so, you know, it wasn't for them, it was for me.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I wasn't annoyed and I wasn't like hating on people or something. You know what I mean? I don't want to be like that. I don't want to live in that kind of energy, you know, because we can carry some really heavy energy, and no matter, it's so hard for us to like swim out of it, you know, just like find our way to the top to just breathe.
You know, I truly believe that human beings, the human mind, and maybe other animals' minds that we don't know about yet, dolphins or whoever, you know, cats, I'm not saying anything, but human minds, for me, are one of the most powerful instruments in our galaxy, in our near universe neighborhood. And so we are able to pick up signals that are from very far distances away on this planet, through time, through like our pasts, you know, and other people, you know, can really connect to the universe itself. And so like it really matters what we attract, what we hang out with, because it's like, I feel like in our way, our mind is like this magnet for energy and information. And wherever we point it, we're going to get that thing in abundance. And so when we begin to shift out of that, then shift out of like the negative self-talk into the positive, it actually creates an exponential effect, and it goes faster and faster, and it builds on itself. So it's like compound interest for thinking positive and putting, and again, it's not just about thinking positive, but it's like taking that positivity and putting it into action over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, I think also to add to that, like we just need to simply look at ourselves from an honest perspective, right? That self-honesty, like, is crucial. Is crucial, and that self-honesty that invites self-awareness is the key. Is a key to unlocking our healing and our growing and our, you know, helping ourselves. You know, nobody else can do it for us. I say this all the time, but like nobody else can do it for us. And honestly, I don't think we'd want them to, because you know, sometimes it seems easier to let somebody else control what happens to us. But anybody who's ever been in an abusive relationship, like, hell no, 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 no.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, like honestly, it's up to us. You know, we get to decide whether or not we just want to exist and make it through life.
Yeah.
Or if we want to like jump in 2 feet.
Yeah.
And just be that life, just live that life, just like, and include whatever it is that appeals to us at particular times. And that's not to say to be reckless, you know, like part of you know, for me, part of my healing was to care for myself. Part of my wellness is to have self-care. And so I don't like to put myself in situations that are unsafe, you know, whether that's physically or otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, and so with that comes responsibility, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but we get to choose. That's the whole point. So my question to you, you know, when you're not here with us, listen to us chatting, is, you know, like the question to ask is like, am I happy? You know, it's not 24/7, 365. I'm not, you know, like shit happens, right? And we're only human. But like genuinely, am I genuinely and generally happy? Because if the answer is like an unconvincing no,
Or a convincing yes.
Unconvincing yes.
Or a convincing no.
Or a convincing no. You know, like, you know, maybe that's going to tell you that maybe you want to try something different. And if you want to try something different, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about in Canna Theory. We're talking about trying something different.
Thriving.
Thriving. Absolutely.
The vibes.
With the vibes.
Thriving. It's not called surviving with the vibes.
Yeah.
It's called thriving with the vibes. And this is a way to thrive. This is a way. Like, this is like, you know, Jay-Z said, you know, I'm trying to give you $10 million advice for $9.99. This is what we're talking about, people. Like this, if you take nothing else out of this ability to reframe, it's no bullshit. It's not hocus pocus.
It's not airy-fairy.
It's not any of those things that rhyme with the words that rhyme that we don't like, or you know what I mean? Like, it's none of those things. It's practical. It's really practical. It's like how we see the world, how we see ourselves. And every day we have a certain amount of choice to what we're going to do. We have very little choice in some areas, and we have a certain amount, and certain people have less than others, and we got to recognize that as well, right? Not everybody has the same level of choice, far from it, obviously. However, for the choice that we do have, we can change our destiny with that time every day. We can do that. We have that ability as humans.
I feel like every day we wake up is an opportunity.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the thing about it is, like, you know, we can't reiterate this point enough. It's not to arrive somewhere. It's not to say, well, I've been like working on myself for 20 years, exactly. And I am just the shit now. I got it. So I don't need any more information. I don't need any more work. I'm just like gonna just like sit back and bask in this, you know? Exactly. Like, it doesn't work like that. Usually if you get to that point, the universe just like throws something at you, something like ours.
Warning, it's a red flag. You gotta
it's a big lesson coming. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I feel like I deserve to live my best life.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And because I feel that for myself, I feel like everybody else does too.
Everybody.
Like, even if I don't even like you.
Yeah.
You still deserve it.
Yeah.
Because I know it's hard. It's hard to be a freaking decent human being.
Yeah.
And we got all this stuff, you know, inside of us, and we hardly know how to deal with it. And a lot of it's so freaking painful and traumatizing, because life is painful and traumatizing. It's really beautiful, can be, but it's, it's not one or the other. It's a combination of those things.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to, well, we don't have to, I guess we don't have to do anything, but I feel that it's like it's always a good time to have a nice long talk with yourself, right? Check in, see what's up, how things are going, inside, and see if you might like a little change. And, I swear to you, like these things, yes, it's hard work. You talk about the work, right? It's hard. It takes a lot of courage.
It does.
It does. It takes a lot of courage to commit to yourself that way.
Yeah, over many years without anybody else giving you candy or giving you praise. And sometimes you might go many years without anybody even noticing that you're doing something. And it can be very challenging to go to start process of change and not see either the ultimate result or even see any immediate results, like big results, right? Some people get into this kind of work because they want to heal a particular thing, or they want to expand in their life, and it can take them decades. I remember it took, I really had to put in the work of every day making myself that focus and making myself and giving myself the opportunity to make it the best day ever. It took many, many years before anybody in my circle was like, looked at me in any other way but, you crazy. What are you doing? That's not how we do it. You are just like, you are out to lunch. Like, what in the hell are you doing? I remember once my grandmother, God rest her soul, she was like, she found out that I took a job at the junkyard as a junk removal specialist. And she was just so upset because she's like, why don't you have a job inside? Like, what are you doing? You're like going backwards in our family, pushing to get to this level, right? And I was like, it's all good, grandma. Like, you don't get it. For me, that was like the best job ever because it allowed me to work out and I got paid well. And that was one of the places where I was able to really incorporate some cannabis into that professional life. And at the same time, I was able to work on other projects. So for me, as an entrepreneur, that was like the coolest thing ever. It was so perfect. But to everybody else, I thought they were just like, whoa, what is he on? Like, what's he about? So I think it takes courage to be able to stand on your own and know that it might be a minute before people catch up to your thinking.
And you know what? Sometimes they never will.
And sometimes they never will.
And sometimes people are always going to see you how they perceive you at whatever particular moment. And they're not going to give you the dignity of your own mistakes. So therefore, they're not going to give you the room to change.
Correct. Yeah, because it can trigger them. Because if you change and other people around you are seeing you change, they get very upset. They get very upset because you're changing the way that they see you. And especially if they're in it's an abusive situation or a power imbalance situation, they're not going to give it up, quietly for those situations. So it really takes something. And I feel like, all of us have somebody that we need to stand up to. All of us have somebody that we need to set a boundary with and say, like, don't do that. Don't interact with me this way, or I'm not going to be around you. And it takes something. It takes some courage. It takes some energy to be like, I'm going to face this again. It's like facing a boss at the end of the video game. You're like, whoa, it's so hard. I'm just like, all right, how am I going to deal with Aunt Wobbly Blue? At the thing, she's just so mean, or she's just like, doesn't get me. How am I going to interact with this person? But yet, I think that's part of it too, is reframing who gets to be in our frame, who we allow to be in our frame as we're walking down this path. It changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, and because the thing is like, I guess where we're coming from is that really it's within us. It's really about us as individuals. It's not about things out there. And so it takes a lot of courage. It takes energy. It does. It takes commitment. And not everybody's going to be happy about it. for a variety of reasons. Like Nick, you spoke about the loss of control for some people. For other people, they'll be jealous, they'll be envious as they see you embrace and be happier, because that's what I'm here to tell you personally. I don't know. I'm just here to tell you that I promise you, if you pursue that, if you simply just pursue that, right? Pursue self-healing, self-help, those kinds of things, better yourself as an individual. Um, a lot of people will really notice, and they will be easier for you to deal with. They might not change, but they'll be easier for you because you will have changed.
Yeah, it's a really interesting thing that happens. And then for me, like I think you also said, like some people never change,
Mhm.
and that's a painful thing, but a necessary thing. It's that certain people just don't get to be a part of my life as much as it hurts for me to exclude them from it.
Mhm.
It's just like, no, I can't be around the energy that is pulling me back or
Mhm.
pulling me down from where I want to go. And if I'm making these courageous steps to try and meet the world with compassion. If you don't have a heart full of compassion, it's going to be fine. It's going to be hard for me to fit you into my frame
Mhm.
because that's just so important to me now. So I think as we develop these new values and virtues, it's like, oh, like this is so important to me to be free, to be courageous, to be, loving and kind or whatever it might be, to be powerful. And whenever we really start to embody these things, and that doesn't align with other people, it becomes really, really hard to ignore, in my experience.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you got to do what you got to do, but that's part of the path of the warrior, right? That's part of
Hmm.
the, sometimes you just got to stand in your truth
Hmm.
and your commitment to yourself should really, in my mind, outweigh your commitment to anybody else.
I think so too. I think it has to. If you
Yeah,
want to be a sovereign, powerful person,
yeah.
it's a requirement to surrender the opinions of others, to surrender like the values of other people. And we want to live in community. We want to be around people that are aligned. But if they're not, it's better to be alone than to be with the wrong people.
Because even when you're alone, you're with yourself, so you're not really
That's
alone,
true.
right?
That's true.
Yeah, I needed a lot of help, like in terms of changing some of those patterns of
Hmm.
thinking and
Hmm.
and whatnot. And I really found that affirmations were very helpful to me. I
Hmm.
mean, like I said, I love quotes. I love short things that I can remember. So the act of writing affirmations is also powerful. Writing your own affirmations. You can start off with just Googling affirmations, but then you can start to write your own that can
Hmm.
be personalized for you. And then again, it's a loving message that you're giving yourself,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So it just like compounds the wonderful healing that comes from that, because we can change.
Yeah.
We really can. I'm still changing. And I guess that's what the point that I was actually hoping to make was that it doesn't matter where we end up, because we're all going to end up 6 feet under at some point or the equivalent, right? That's just a
Dust in the wind.
that's just a
All
fact of
we are is
life.
dust in the wind.
Sing it. Oh, the high parts too. I love it. But the thing is, okay, where was I? Oh, um,
Affirmations.
affirmations. Well, I guess my point being, whatever it takes, just, there's a plethora of things out there,
I'm
information,
sorry, I got to pick up the big word that you just dropped there and put it over there for
all
later.
kinds of things. Reading is really great if you love to read. It's really, really
Mm.
wonderful. But to go into these things, not necessarily saying, "Oh my God, I need something that's going to do it for me," because that's not going to work. If that's kind of opening yourself up to, like, joining a cult.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
What you need to do is go into it thinking, what can I take from
Hmm.
this? What can I take? Because I'm making my toolbox. So I get to choose what tools I put in there and what beliefs I put in there. So, there's nothing wrong with taking something and then leaving the rest. Like, that's okay. So that's what I hope you do with our videos. I hope you
Mhm.
take what you want and
Yeah.
just leave the rest here.
Yeah.
You don't have to like swallow everything hook, line, and sinker. It doesn't. You
Mhm.
don't need to be like that. And that's part of that extreme human nature,
Yeah.
right? In for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah. Yeah. We love to do that. I have a great affirmation story, which because I really used affirmations a lot,
Mhm.
especially in the early days where I was trying to find this, and I use words like this path or whatever, this work, but it's just for me, it's just like that when I started to listen to myself only, and I started to block out other voices. So when I was on that early days in that path, I would say like affirmations, like maybe like 5,000 times in a day. I
Mhm.
had a little bead counter, and I would say things like, I'm abundant in all aspects of my life. And friends, if you looked around at that, what I was seeing as I was counting those beads, it did not look like I was that abundance. I remember once I remember this beautiful moment. I was out of couches to stay at, and I was out of family to
Oops.
stay with, and I was sitting in a park, and I was like, I feel sad.
Mm.
And I've never felt the sadness before. So I just started crying in a park, and I started like just
Weeping.
weeping, and then
Yeah.
just the things, and everybody in this park was just like, yeah man, you do that, and there's like a bunch of people that were just like, hey, guy need to cry. And at that moment I got a text from my friend who was like, hey, I'm around the neighborhood, man, like why don't you come stay at my place, we got like a loft and something, right? And I was like, okay, here we go. So it was at that time in my life that I was saying these affirmations. I'm abundant in all aspects of my life. And it took, because like for me, like just a quick backstory is that, I kind of came into life with a little bit of privilege. My parents, had a little bit of money at different times, sometimes not, sometimes a lot. And so I kind of had to like find my own way. And at a certain point, I just had to like push everybody aside and find my own way. And I had to learn kind of the basics. Even though I was older, I had to relearn some things. And so one of
Mhm.
those things was like how to figure out this whole money, like financial stuff. And I remember being in the mirror of my friend's place saying these affirmations, and I would say them a lot. And over time, my life started to change. It started to shift. It started to reflect those words, and not just like, so my reality became not just I have to like wish it into existence. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm now experiencing what it's like to live an abundant life, and
Mhm.
to actually be, able to travel and able to work from everywhere, and like, give my family like what they need, and make sure I have that, those resources for everybody. So it's like, it really is powerful. I'm really glad you brought up
Mhm. Oh
affirmations.
yeah, I love it. And words carry power, right? In my belief, that in my thinking, I believe that what is going on in here in my mind, when I give it voice, it gives it even more power,
Hmm.
more energy. And so we do this, like we see examples of it in our own lives all the time. We speak things into
Yeah.
existence, right? Um, and so,
And then sometimes it turns into an ad on our phone, and we're like, who heard that?
yeah, that's kind of scary, right? But so I guess what I'm saying ultimately is that we do these things anyways. We talk to ourselves, we think about things, we get really, we spend time, thinking about issues or problems or whatever. So, all I'm saying, since we're already doing that, why not try doing that, but with something that's going to feed our soul, with
Mm,
something that's going to
yeah.
help us, empower us, and help
Hmm.
move us forward? So, um, that makes us begin to be more aware of like, what is the content that you're allowing to come into
Hmm.
you?
Hmm.
You know, what are the voices around you saying? What are you choosing to listen to?
Hmm.
And it's like if you buy a woman who buys a new dress and she's not sure, right? And she goes out and 9 people tell her, "Oh wow, that color looks fantastic on you." And then one person says, "Oh, that would makes your hips look a little wide." and that offends her, and then like it feeds into her low self-worth, and that's what she clings to. You know, that's the negative stuff that we almost ferret out from the world around us, and we choose to internalize it and bring it in. So you know, we're doing that to ourselves, and the only person that can fix it is ourselves.
Which is bringing us back to like a recent episode about the journey to self. And so I feel like this is really part of that journey. Once we are recognizing that we need to be on a journey, these initial tools, reframing, you know, affirmation, just, you know, the approaches that we're taking here, I think really builds on what we've already been talking about.
And you're going to see that all our tools intertwine. That's why they're so wonderful, right? That's why they fit in the box so well, because they all work together, and they're multitaskers. They don't just do one thing, just like cannabis doesn't do one thing. It does many things for us. And so I love that, that we, you know, I feel like it's like a toy, like a tickle trunk almost, rather than a toolbox, right? Because these tools, in my mind, some of them are like reframing, some of them are more fun, right? But the thing is that I guess bottom line for me is it is hard to commit to yourself, because we're not taught that. We don't believe it often. We're not encouraged to do that. But I promise you, and I don't promise things very lightly, I take that very seriously, but I promise you that it doesn't matter about where you get to. Because once you consciously step onto that path of personal development and you know, personal growth and intuitive, you know, improvement and all these kinds of things, once you put your foot on that path, it already gets fun. The adventure has begun. Okay? So it's not about waiting to arrive, like, oh, I'll be happy when I don't blank, fill in the frickin' blank, right? When I don't think this way, I don't act this way, I don't do this, I'm not with this, I'm not, you know, I got a new job, or whatever it is.
When external reality changes.
So the change has to start here. And when it starts here, it will move to here if you choose that. So, and then it's like your little feet will just be walking in this more joyful path. And so so when things that are unpleasant, or, you know, when shit happens, we take a breath. Sometimes we react, sometimes we sit back, but we're able to deal with it easier because it's not our constant state of being.
Well, this perfectly brings us back to something that I think I wanted to hear more about, which is like the cannabis, specifically talking about cannabis and talking about THC, because I know you have something to say about that. And I think for me, I think it's so interesting for me that in a way, cannabis is a reframing tool in and of itself.
Absolutely.
So I'll just leave that as a jumping off point and let you dive in.
That's all you want to say about it right now? Okay. Well, absolutely. I think cannabis and other medicines that expand your consciousness are incredible reframing tools. You know, that's one of the reasons why psychedelic therapy in my mind is just the thing that we need so badly now. We needed it before, but we need it now more than ever. And so I want to start what I'm about to say with that, going back to what I started to say earlier about how our culture, our cannabis culture and our community is evolving, right? Some of us that started in the 70s, we're no longer young people, and now we got like a whole different perspective about cannabis. Or if you've been very ill and come to cannabis through illness.
Some of us started in the 80s and are no longer very young either.
Well, the good news is you'll always be younger than I. So like, and I am thrilled, even though, of course, I'm old school and I tend to approach cannabis with what I'm familiar, what I've found that works, but I always stay open to new information and try new products and all kinds of stuff like that. Because what I found is, like one of the things I found was that every single way that you consume or utilize cannabis has a different effect.
Mm-hmm.
And when you mix two or more ways together, like methodologies, they create a different effect.
Yeah.
So I'm exploring that. I love to explore that. That's really fascinating to me. And I do try to keep up, even though I'm not like a brainiac at all, but I do try to keep up with the latest science.
You have your moments, T. You're no slouch upstairs. Come on now.
I will claim wisdom, but I won't claim brainiac. Okay. So, yeah, like I love to keep up with those things. And so we've got an evolution going on. And sometimes I like to put the R in brackets in front of that because it's a revolution too.
Wait, won't be televised. I just heard it. It won't be.
So the thing about it is, even though we have people in our community that are tend to look at cannabis from a more contemporary perspective, and that is as we've begun to separate the cannabinoids, all the things that are in the plant that make the plant special. Okay, we call them cannabinoids. And all of us, human beings, we all have endocannabinoid systems, every single last one of us. And so those cannabinoids,
even you, Mom, you do.
And that endocannabinoid system are like a match made in heaven. Okay, so and I do appreciate, like, there are lots of cannabinoids. I don't know, like they've identified like over 100 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So
there won't be a quiz. We're not going to go through all 125.
No. And this is also going to explain why we don't talk too much about like the plant in that way, in the terms of educating about the plant itself, because there's so much information. There's so many brilliant people out there, much more brilliant than us.
We'll put some links in the show notes so that you can check them out yourself. Some of the great educators out there.
Our focus is on the therapeutic use of cannabis. So cannatherapy.
What does it do? What's the effect?
Yeah. And so I appreciate that. I especially appreciate it because since they were able to isolate those cannabinoids and start to work with them and explore the different things that they do, honestly, this is like a rabbit hole. Like you just Google it, you could be gone for days. I don't know. There's a lot of information now, thank goodness.
Yeah.
And you can learn all about that from the people who really know. So I love that the pursuits and the what am I trying to say? Like the exposure of CBD, it just exploded. And it is a wonderful cannabinoid. And I am very happy that people are more likely, when they're curious about cannabis, to try CBD because it seems safer, right? Because it doesn't have that hallucinate or that
THC.
Yeah, it doesn't have the THC, the nasty little cousin there.
Oh no, THC's coming! Everybody run away! THC. I'm here to party.
That's THC.
THC.
So I get it, right? I get it. Like it doesn't have the psychoactive effect, okay? For, to most degree. This is all I'm using very general language because I'm not necessarily
because of the rabbit hole within rabbit holes that all this leads to.
And some of this is like changes as we learn more. So I don't get too caught up in the terms that we use and how we're doing things. It's right today. It might not be right tomorrow, or we might learn more about how right it is tomorrow. I don't know.
Exactly. We're
Right?
students. We're helping just like you guys.
My point is, I'm really, really glad that you have found cannabis and that you are utilizing the plant in the way that you are utilizing it, that you are getting some benefit of the plant in the CBD. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to say to you a couple things. One is that as someone who does not sell CBD or THC, I want to tell you that the best CBD, how it will work the best for you, is in combination with all the other cannabinoids, including THC.
It's a party.
Mm-hmm.
Don't leave anybody out.
Absolutely.
Bring everybody into the party.
So, it's better as a whole than it is pieced out. So that's not to say that one day we're not going to go to the drugstore and see cannabis like Jameson's vitamins, right?
Yeah.
Where we've got all the cannabinoids, then the CBG. You can buy the whole plant, or you can buy just like a particular cannabinoid, CBN, and they all have different uses, and they're all of benefit. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm just trying to share the truth that they work best in synergy together.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the ultimate benefit of them, you want the whole plant. Now, the reason why I understand why people prefer CBD is because it does not have the psychoactive effect, and they're afraid of it. Okay, all you people out there that are afraid of THC, and whatever story you tell yourself around, I don't need the THC, I don't need this. I'm going to say to you something that probably sounds really opinionated, because it is, but I'm going to say it anyways. And that is that the more resistant someone is to THC, to even trying it, to see what that experience is like, the more I usually feel that they need it, that they would benefit from it.
Yeah.
Because if your thinking is so rigid, and like it happens, right? We just spent like how many decades of, reefer madness.
Yeah.
Plus, if some people, if you were younger and you smoked some, bit of pot at a party and had a bad experience or something, like you're like, oh no, I don't want that to happen to me. But I'm telling you, in a safe and controlled environment, starting low and going slow,
Yeah.
THC combined in the whole little plant of cannabis, this is the plant we are talking about, right? So these things that we're talking about in terms of expanded consciousness, if you're only using CBD and you have never tried THC, you're not really going to understand what we're talking about. So I just want to kind of put that there, so that we understand that you are clear about what we are talking about when we are talking about utilizing cannabis. We're talking about the plant, the whole plant, and that's the plant.
I mean, yeah, like I agree. I think even the science is backing up this idea of the entourage effect, having multiple cannabinoids together. THC does seem to start the party, for some of these great effects, and it enhances the party. It kind of brings it to a new level. And so I'm super excited just to see where all of this research goes, where all of this stuff gets us, because I think it can help in so many different ways. In particular, I think it's important on this topic of reframing, why THC is important, because there's a specific reason that the reframing side of cannabis is supported by THC. And for me, it's because there's an element of, because I definitely use CBD a lot, and I use THC products as well. And I noticed that there's a difference in that I can, like, CBD will like change, I'll be able to reframe a situation into a more calming kind of space. But THC, I'm able to like to really like flip
Mm-hmm.
the script, and it can be like a transformative
Mm-hmm.
engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different thing. And so when I'm reframing, when I'm using cannabis in the reframing process, the THC is able to like, and I think this is true with all plant medicines, it's like able to open up our minds to more information that we normally
Exactly.
get. And so it really has an effect. And there's like such there's such a like a stigma against enjoying medicine
Mm-hmm.
or enjoying things that are good for you, that we have all of these belief systems and reframing. So everybody needs to really look at their frames when it comes to cannabis, even cannabis consumers, because we've been influenced by this propaganda, by this stuff as well. So it's a really, I think it's a really interesting way to kind of tie this episode together by showing what the power of reframing is,
Mm-hmm.
and showing like what might be available if we're open to reframing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's such an important point. And like you're right, like having all those other cannabinoids to, add into your daily whatever routine that you're doing, they can be amazing. I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't try them and utilize them for our own personal issues. What I'm saying is if we really want to get to know cannabis, we got to get to know her with all her cannabinoids. To truly know her, you
Mm.
need all of them together. So yeah, reframing. It's, I remember when I got sick
Mm.
and like, it was about a 2-year span of trying to find the right cocktail of medication that would control my cluster headaches.
Mm.
And, I would get stuck in these month-long kind of grooves of attacks every day. And I had like oxygen tank in my bedroom and all kinds of shit.
Wow.
Oh my God, I was desperate. I was just getting desperate.
Yeah.
But when that happened, I really believed that it was like the end of my life. Like I just felt like I couldn't work. And so I lived on my savings until they were gone. And then I had to give up my apartment. I had to move back down to my old neighborhood, right? Because that was the only place I could afford, right? Um, I was in pain. I was terrified because I would be scared to leave the house in case one of these attacks came on.
Mm.
And I had to leave my career at sea.
Mm.
And that was really painful because I wasn't really ready.
Mm.
But at that time, in that 2-year span, I felt like I was going to work my way to be able to get well enough to go back.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then I did go back in 2001. And after like a very short 6-month contract, I realized that that was my last one.
Right.
So it was heartbreaking to me. And I really thought that it was something that was forced upon me that I didn't have any control over. And it completely, in my mind, ruined my life.
Mm-hmm. So that's your frame.
That was my frame.
Yeah.
And that made me very depressed.
Mm-hmm.
I felt very isolated because just like when anybody that deals with any kind of chronic pain or chronic illness, it can be very isolating because other people just don't really get it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Some do, especially if they've dealt with their own. But like for instance, if I didn't know when my attacks, I would not have any kind of a trigger. So someone might say, oh, come to this party, and I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm coming, and then like 5 minutes before I'm leaving, I'm getting an attack. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And they would take that personal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I didn't bother to show up, but it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't about that.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'd have to spend a few hours getting okay, my medicine kicking in and stuff like that. So it wasn't like I could phone them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they would just take it personally.
Yeah.
Things like that. And of course, trying to have a job, or if you were managing children or like whatever, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it can be so hard. And so, yeah, I really felt myself like it took away my career. It took away my savings, so my financial security. It took away some of my hope because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to find something to control this, and if I had to live like this for the rest of my life. Oh my God,
Yeah.
all those things that you go through when you're hit with something
Yeah.
that's like life transformative, life changing. But of course, that was in 1999, 2001. And, it's now 2024. So I have now the benefit of, 20 some odd years of hindsight, right? And of course, I can look back and I can see, had I not gotten sick and had to leave my career at sea, I was now at home. That's how I met my now husband of 20 years. It's why I became an entrepreneur. I never wanted to become an entrepreneur. I felt forced into it because I couldn't work on a schedule for
Right.
anybody else. So it's
Yeah.
like, I got to work, I got to eat.
Yeah.
So then I became an entrepreneur and realized how much I love that. And so all of these things, like I literally would not be sitting here today. I'd probably be like, I don't know, hanging out on some island in Greece or something. I don't know, wherever the wind takes me, I'm going, wherever it feels good. But I love, nice. I love who I am, and I love my life. Is there room for improvement? There's always room for an improvement, right? Do I still feel ambitious? I still feel ambitious. But I'm happy. If like in The Peaceful Warrior, we were talking about that book the other day, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And
it'll in the show notes. I forget his last name.
I do as well.
Dan something.
Yeah.
It'll be in the show notes.
Yeah. The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. And like today, talk about the warrior, how they're facing life, and like to get to that place where, you just feel like today is a good day to die. And like, it's okay. I'm not saying today's a good day to die because I want to die today. I'm saying that if it were to happen, I'd be okay with that.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like I'm just really, really in the moment of my life.
Yeah.
And I feel like cannabis does that. Some of it's like, I can't call it magic. So some of its benefits are that it can bring you to the moment. But actually, I find that the more I pursue this path of healing for myself, the more I want to be in the moment.
Yeah.
Because I like them. Right? It's not like I'm trying to escape from the moment like I used to have to feel. So, I don't know. Did I get carried away there?
No, I think it's perfect.
Did I go off on a tangent?
No. That's great because you really showed the bottom of the frame, right? You showed that where you were at that frame, and then the reframing that took place looking back. But I'm sure it also happened as you were evolving. There was a continually changing the frame, and I think it's important for people to see real life examples of what this reframing looks like and what it can result in over time. A lot of people get really stuck on how quickly they want results, right?
Immediate gratification.
Immediate gratification. Yeah. And we're not talking about that. We're talking about something that could take years, decades to really come to fruition. But it's a commitment and a journey that's enjoyable.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Exactly. Yeah. So like, rather than, I don't really see it for myself as a journey, because journey in my mind means like this long road I gotta go, right? I see it more as my life is an adventure.
Yes. Adventure. That's a key word here.
And that keeps me inspired. It keeps me engaged. It keeps me optimistic. It keeps me curious, right? And so I don't know. That's for what works for me. And the thing is, there's this time when you're reframing, you're gonna feel it. When you're reframing something, or you already have, if you already use this technique. So there's a point in reframing where you go from recognizing the frame of which you are looking through to choosing how you want to see this.
Yeah.
Perceive, sorry.
Yes. No, you got it.
And somewhere in between those is the acceptance.
Yes, that's the key.
Yeah.
That's the key, because it's not just creating a different future, it's deeply accepting the present that we currently have at a deep and really like introspective level of understanding what's actually happening versus what I think is, or what my frame is, or other people's frame. So I think you really hit on something, even as we're approaching, more morbid like ways of looking at it in some views. But I think it's important to talk about death, because in a way, like life and death are literally reframing activities, right? Being a human is a constant reframing activity from one moment to the next, this is what we are doing. So I think that's a really critical point. I'm glad we hit it, because people might go away thinking that it's all about creating a new future and manifesting and all of that. And yeah, it is. However, it has to start with reality, and we have to like get our 2 feet and constantly remind ourselves that we are human, and we need to keep it humble, like really keep it humble, because this life is too big. It's too powerful to take lightly. And at the same time, like, it's such an adventure to play in when we remember who we are, when we remember what our limitations are as a human, not as like limitations like who we might be as a human, but limitations in terms of our safety, in terms of like the wisdom of the ancestors.
We can be broken.
Yes, and we will be repaired and healed. But yeah, so anyway, I'm really glad you touched on that point. I think that's important.
That acceptance always feels to me like a very peaceful place.
Yes.
And sometimes, you know, when all this stuff's going on up here and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on in here, right? You feel like really overwhelmed with emotion, and your thoughts are racing, and you've got crazy stuff going on in there. Like, sometimes, you know, for me, peace is a really, really important part of it.
Yeah.
Part of my wellness.
Yeah.
Peace of mind, peace of heart, piece of body.
Piece of cake.
Piece of cake, definitely. Pie. Piece of pie. Pecan pie.
Ice cream on it. Hot.
Okay. I think that this seems like a great place to finish up on it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like we'll in a future episode, I do want you to get into self-parenting. I think it's really important, but let's save that for another one.
All right.
I really appreciate the conversation today. Like,
Me
I
too.
probably really got to something. So thanks to everybody who's joining us. Thanks to everybody who's watching. Can't wait for another episode of Thrivin With DVIBZ. I feel more alive than when we started. I feel like a little bit in a thriving energy. So thank you so much to everybody. Thanks to our crew and everybody who's helping us do this. And see you next time.
Yeah, take care, and take care of yourselves and each other. All right. Good night.
Peace.